Morning, church. Hey, it's good to see you. Today we're wrapping up the series we've been in this month, and if you're just jumping in to kind of get us all on the same page before we move forward today, we've been in the series called Summer at the Lake. Incredible moments can happen by the water, especially at the summertime. Maybe it's boating, maybe it's fishing, maybe it's swimming, family fun, things like that. But there are some incredible moments that happened in Jesus' life by the water as well. Week one, we talked about Jesus' calling of the disciples. He says, hey, come and follow me. And it's this lifelong commitment of follow that he is calling them to. The next week, together, we talked about the storms in our life and that our storms have a name, but our storms bow to a name, and that name is the name of Jesus. And we talked about that storms pop up, but they don't control what's going on. Jesus does. Last week, we talked about Peter walking on water, looking at Jesus, and we talked together about how Jesus is the focus of our foundation, that if we maintain our focus on him instead of everything that's going on around us, our foundation is strong. When we start looking at all the conditions around us, then that's when things start to fall apart. And today we're going to wrap this series up, but we're going to maintain being by the water, but we're going to move inland a little bit, if you will. We're still going to be by the water, but it's going to look just a little bit different today. You see, Jesus does these incredible moments all over the place, not just by the side of a lake, but still using water. This morning, as we look at another one of these moments, I'm afraid that a lot of times we miss Jesus. We're hoping for this incredible moment. We're waiting for this incredible moment, but we miss the incredible things that Jesus does in our everyday. We miss the things that he does in the middle of the small areas of our life. We miss some of the ways that he shows up when we're not necessarily expecting it. And I also think that there are some of us in the room today that we talk about Jesus doing these incredible things, but if we're honest, there's many of us that we feel like we're too broken for Jesus to use to do those incredible things. We feel like maybe there's something in our past or maybe something right now that is keeping us from seeing that, from accomplishing that, from allowing Jesus to do that in us. There's some area of our life that feels just a little bit broken, and so we just assume like, well, because I'm broken, I'm out. He can't use me. But this morning, Jesus offers us something different. This morning, he swings things wide open, and he says, nah, I'm not sure that's the case. I want to pray, and we're going to jump right in. Jesus, I'm thankful this morning that I'm thankful for your church. Jesus, I'm thankful that we can be here. I'm thankful that we can learn together and laugh. I'm thankful that we can worship. That God, I pray that we not take for granted this place. That your church is something that's unique in our society. And so I pray that, God, if we're here and we are beat down by what's going on in life, I pray that you will use us in this room, God, to breathe life, to bring joy, to bring hope to one another. Father, I pray this morning that as we look at your word, I pray that it will be not just challenging, but God, I pray that we will find life in your word. Jesus, I'm thankful that because of a cross, and because of an empty tomb, all of us as broken and sinful people, we can meet here this morning. It's in your name that we pray. Amen. There are two types of people in the room, and I'm not talking male and female. There are those of us in the room who have broken a bone in our body, and there are those of us in the room who have not broken a bone in our body. How many of us have broken a bone in our body? Some bone, okay? How many of us have never broken a bone in our body? Yeah, those are my people right there. Never done that, okay? I don't really care to. But a lot of times, broken bones in our body, they come with a story, don't they? They come with some sort of story. Some of them are absolutely ridiculous stories. Some of them are pretty simple stories. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to turn to the person around you. And if you're a broken bone person, I want you to tell the story, okay, in like 30 seconds of how you did that. Ready? Go. All right, all right. I said 30 seconds. All right, that's enough. Just kidding. And some of us, we have broken bones in the most extravagant, ridiculous ways. I can tell by the laughter in the room with those stories. And some of us, we don't really want to share how we broke that bone, do we? No. We don't want to do that. Here's the thing: is when you broke that bone in your body, okay, or if you're with me, never broken a bone, you've seen someone do that, okay, you know. Okay, what happened next? You went to the doctor, they took pictures of it, they looked at it. Maybe you just knew right away, like it was sticking out or something crazy like that, okay? You knew right away. But you went someplace and they fixed it, right? They put a cast on it. Okay, you walked around for a while with a cast, and then it healed, didn't it? Okay? How many of us still have the broken bone, exactly how it was from when we were 8? And not many of us, none of us. Hey, maybe even if it didn't heal right, it's still healed. Hey, the bone doesn't stay broken forever. Hey, we somehow, cast, splint, whatever else, we get that adjustment and it makes it better. We don't stay in that broken state for the rest of our lives. We don't live with the kindergarten injury or the 4-year-old injury of breaking a bone. It doesn't stay with us the rest of our lives. However, there are other areas in our life that, for whatever reason, broken moments in our life, things that we wish we could go back and do over, words we wish we could say differently, family conversations we wish we could completely reverse. There are areas in our life that are broken moments that we can admit they are broken, but unlike an arm, we are allowing them to define every area of our life for the rest of our life. There are broken relationships and broken marriages and mistakes from college. Broken moments that we're not allowing to heal. Broken moments that we are allowing to just define the rest of our life. This is not how Jesus designed it to be. He didn't design it that we're broken for forever. We have broken moments just like we've had broken bones. But they don't stay that way. And one of the things that I absolutely love about Jesus, one of the aspects about Jesus that I absolutely love is the way that he sees people. And we're going to see this morning because the way that he's going to see a woman this morning is the same way that he sees us. When it comes to the broken moments in our life, the way that Jesus sees that brokenness, so many times it's opposite of how we see it. If you brought a Bible this morning, we're going to be in John chapter 4. It'll be on the screen. You're also welcome to look it up on your phone. John chapter 4, a familiar story. Maybe some of us have heard before. Jesus, he's not necessarily by a lake. Now Jesus is by a well. And as Jesus spends a few minutes by this well, he changes or challenges a woman's perspective on her life completely. John chapter 4, we're going to begin in verse 1 together. It says this. Now Jesus learned that the Pharisees had heard that he was gaining and baptizing more disciples than John, although in fact it was not Jesus who baptized, but his disciples. So he left Judea and went back once more to Galilee. Now he had to go through Samaria, so he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar. Near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there. And Jesus, tired from his journey, sat down by the well. It was about noon. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? For Jews do not associate with Samaritans." Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks for a drink of water, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water." "Sir," the woman said, "you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did his sons and his livestock?" Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life. The woman said to him, Sir, give me this water so I won't be thirsty anymore and have to keep coming here to draw water. He told her, Go and call your husband and come back. I have no husband, she replied. Jesus said to her, You're right when you say you have no husband. The fact is, you have 5 husbands, and the man you have now is not your husband. What you have said is quite true. Sir, the woman said, I can see that you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem. Woman, Jesus replied, believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father, neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know. For salvation is from the Jews. Yet a time is coming and has now come when the true worshipers will worship the Father in the Spirit and truth. For they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. God is Spirit, and his worshipers must worship in the Spirit and in truth. The woman said, I know that Messiah, called Christ, is coming. When he comes, he will explain everything to us. Then Jesus declared, I, the one speaking to you, I am he. Right out of the gate, Jesus is breaking rules. Jesus is breaking rules because customarily during this day, as we just read, Jews don't associate with Samaritans. They didn't like each other. They didn't want to talk to one another. They didn't want to spend time with one another. There was more of a hatred, if anything else. And so they did not associate, as we just read together. So Jesus sitting down, immediately asking her a question, breaks the cultural norm, number one. And the second thing that Jesus does is, as a man, he talks to a woman. Customarily during this time period, men did not address women out in public, especially during the day. Husbands didn't even address their wives because culturally during this time period, women were second-class citizens. And so they did not communicate out in public. So as Jesus, he sits down, he's going from one city to another city. As he sits down by this well, in an area where Jewish people oftentimes did not go, they would most of the time avoid. He sits down at this well. A woman walks up around noon and he says, Can I have a drink? A simple question. I mean, they don't get much easier than this. Can I have something to drink? And Jesus is beginning this conversation because he sees this woman differently than culture sees this woman. I say that because one more thing about culture when this is happening is every morning all of the women, they would get up together and they would all go to the well to get water together. It was a community type experience. All of the women would do this together. It was a time for them to converse. It was a time for them to hear stories about life and family and everything else. It's more or less the coffee house by the well. And so all the women would get up and they would all go together and they would talk and they would visit with one another unless there was something in your life that embarrassed the other women. If there was something in your life that embarrassed the other women, then they would not invite you to coffee house at the well, and they would not invite you to this community experience. This is where this woman falls. We know this because it says she showed up around noon. There's something in this woman's life that's broken, to the point that all the other women in town don't want to spend time with her. They've cast her to the side. Jesus doesn't see that. He knows that, but he doesn't see that. He says, Can I have a drink? A simple request. And immediately her response is what? Why are you talking to me? You're a Jew, I'm a Samaritan. Immediately she begins to come up with excuses of why she can't give him something to drink. Well, I mean, you don't even have anything to get water. The well's deep, and I didn't bring something to get you water. And all of a sudden, there's all of these excuses. A simple request of a drink, and immediately it's followed with no, and here's the reasons why. And I wish it wasn't so, but I'm afraid that I can find myself, and that we can find ourselves in the reflection of this woman as well. How many times has Jesus asked us to just do something, a simple request, and our immediate reaction or response is no? Our immediate response is all of the reasons of why we can't serve and why we can't participate and why we can't surrender and why we can't do what he calls us to do. Jesus, I'd love to serve you in that way. I'm just too busy. I mean, I've got to be here and I've got to be here and I've got to be at this spot and I just don't have time to do that. It sounds like a great thing. It would really help, people know about your kingdom and know about how much I just don't have time to do that, so I'm sorry. No, I just can't. A request of Jesus to let go of our finances and trust him. And we say, Jesus, I don't know. I mean, I have to pay this and I have to pay this and I have to pay this. And, I got to see, and at the end, if there's something left, and here you go. And Jesus, I hear you. I hear you call me to love my spouse unconditionally, but I don't know. I mean, you know what they've said to me, and I just don't know what that looks like. And yeah, they've been faithful, but it doesn't mean that things are fun. And so I don't know about it. And we start coming up with these excuses of why, these requests for Jesus. Jesus, I know that you want me to train my kids to love you more than anything else in this world, more than sports and clubs and everything else. And while they're good, we know that you're better. And so I know that you want me to train my kids in that way. But I mean, there's some opportunities over here. And if we do this and we disappear for a while, then they could get these opportunities. And I think we can find ourselves in the shadow of the woman maybe a little bit more than we want to. A simple request for Jesus that we immediately follow with all the excuses why we can't, instead of what it looks like for us too. Jesus continues the conversation and he says, wait a minute. I'm offering you something even better. Now, I asked for a drink. Yeah, I know that, but I've got something to bring to your life that is far better than the Aquafina that I'm asking for. I've got something to bring to your life that you will never thirst in your brokenness again. You'll never hope more because you'll be filled with hope. I've got something better for you. So she begins to ask questions. How can I find this? I don't want to show up here anymore at noon by myself because I'm being humiliated by everybody else in my town. I don't want to do that. How can I get this living water? How can I find something better than what I'm coming up with? And this is where Jesus almost baits the hook a little bit. He says, all right, go get your husband and come back. Well, I don't have a husband. See, Jesus already knew, because his response is, you're right, you don't have a husband. And the 5 guys you've been with before this, they're not your husbands either. Brokenness. Jesus calls it right to the table. He doesn't pretend that it's not there. He calls it right to the table, and she's caught. She's caught in the broken. And we probably know what that feels like. We don't like to admit when we're wrong. We don't like to get caught doing something we're not supposed to. As a kid, as an adult, we don't like that moment. We don't wake up saying, you know what, I really hope that I do something wrong today, and I have to admit it. She's caught. She's caught in her broken. But Jesus didn't come here to catch her in her brokenness. He came to offer something better. And even though he sees the brokenness, he sees what's past it, which is why he offers her something better. You see, what this woman sees in her life is that she lives in a state of brokenness. Her life, in its entirety, the choices that she is making, the way that her culture, her society views her, it is a state of brokenness. But what Jesus is here to tell this woman, and I believe here this morning, is that we don't live in a state of brokenness. We live in seasons of brokenness. We have moments that are broken, each and every one of us in the room. We have moments that are broken. We have moments that we wish we could do over. We have seasons where we're not making right decisions. We have seasons that we wish we could change. We have seasons of brokenness when Jesus is involved. But we no longer live in a state of brokenness. Because of Jesus, your brokenness and my brokenness, it is not a state that I wake up in. It's a season I go through and worship past. If Jesus was here just to make this woman feel guilty, he would have sat down and he would have said, I hear you're sleeping with 6 guys. Instead, he sat down and he asked for a drink. And then he said, I have something better. I have eternal life. And all of these questions that you're trying to figure out and all of the worship that you're trying to navigate, it is me. I'm right here. The hard part is that when it comes to brokenness, there are 2 ways to look at it. One, we've already talked about, that we see ourselves, because of our mistakes and because of what we've done, we see ourselves continually living in a state of brokenness. The other way that we can look at brokenness is, I'm not broken. I'm good. The second way is what I see the other women that show up early in the morning, that maybe they have secrets, but all the other women don't know about it. Maybe they've got things in their life that their husbands know about, but no one else does, and so they still get to go early. This woman, her broken moment just happens to be more public. All the women that show up in the morning with their water jugs, they say, well, I show up at the synagogue when I'm supposed to, and I do. I'm pretty good. I'm a good parent. I'm a good spouse. I'm a good wife. I'm good. I'm not really broken. I show up on Sunday mornings and I sing out loud, and I throw some cash in the offering plate as it's passed, and every once in a while they'll ask for something. I'll try to pitch in every once in a while, at church if it's really needed, and I'll serve every once in a while. I'm good. I'm a pretty good husband. I'm a pretty good wife. I'm a pretty good parent, so I'm not really broken. I go to church. I'm good. You see, when we view brokenness the first way, as we're always broken, we eliminate ourselves from what Jesus wants to do. The second way, when we view ourselves as not broken and we're just good, we eliminate Jesus from what Jesus wants to do. Both situations are not what God designed us to be. You and I, no matter how polished and perfect we look showing up here on Sunday, we have broken moments in our life, each and every one of us. We have moments we wish we could go back on. We have conversations we wish we could do over. We have moments from college that we wish we could get back. We have marriages that we wish we could go back to and repair. We have friendships we wish we could go back to and do something different. We all have broken areas. However, when Jesus is involved, our brokenness is a season and not a state. Romans chapter 5, verse 8 says, but God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. When we were still broken, when we were still the mess, that's when he died for us. When we still had those broken moments. And if that's when he chose to die for us, then we don't live in a state of brokenness anymore. Those are the moments that he took to the cross. We might have seasons of brokenness, but it doesn't mean that we are broken forever. One of the last things that Jesus says to this woman is, listen, you're waiting to worship, but I'm right here. You're waiting for this worship of when this Christ is going to come, but I'm right here. I'm right here in front of you, offering you something more to heal the brokenness and to bring hope to your life, to give you something that will well up inside of you, that will overflow in the middle of life, in the middle of everyday moments. I'm bringing you joy. I'm bringing you hope. I'm bringing you forgiveness where the broken doesn't define anymore. I'm bringing you living water. I'm right here. And whether we feel like we're constantly broken or whether we feel like we're so good that we're not broken, we need to meet at the middle, at the foot of the cross, and recognize that it's only because of Jesus that we don't live in a state of brokenness anymore. You and I, we have broken moments, but we are not forever broken. We don't live in a state of brokenness. We live in seasons of brokenness. And like this woman, we worship through. So, I remember the first time I wanted to watch the movie Forrest Gump. We all remember the movie Forrest Gump. I remember the first time I wanted to watch it, and my mom and dad said I wasn't allowed. And so, got a little bit older, and then I watched Forrest Gump. But there's a scene in the beginning of the movie. Listen, Forrest Gump's one of those movies, it's been too long. So if you've not seen it, it's your own fault. I'm going to spoil it for you, okay? So there's this part in the beginning of the movie where Forrest, as he is a young boy, he lives with leg braces on, okay? He has a condition where he has to walk with these leg braces on. And so he kind of walks and his legs are straight and he doesn't have a lot of strength and he gets picked on. There's a scene towards the beginning of the movie where he is with Jenny, all right? He's with Jenny, and they're walking on this dirt road on the way home from school, and a couple of guys pull up on their bicycles, and they've got rocks in their hands, and they throw rocks at Forrest. And they hit him in the head, he falls down, and they're calling him names like dumb and stupid and all of these other things. And he gets up and they start chasing him, and that's when you get like the infamous line from Forrest Gump, "Run, Forrest, run!" And so he takes off down this road, and he's got these braces in his legs, and he's confined, and he can't go very fast. And so he's kind of doing this fast walk as his legs are straight, and these braces are kind of holding him together, but yet confining him at the same time. And as he begins to move faster and faster and faster, all of a sudden, these metal braces that run on the inside and outside of his legs that kept his legs straight, and all of a sudden these metal braces, they begin to splinter and they begin to fall off, and you see this hardware and you see the leather straps and you see them begin to fall off and hit the ground. And as they hit the ground, as the braces fall off and hit the ground, Forrest takes off and he just starts running faster and faster and faster to the point that he outruns the little boys that are on the bike. And you see him stop and you just look as Forrest is running fast and straight ahead. What had confined him was no longer confining him anymore, and he ran fast. This morning, friends, there are some of us that we are living life as though we're in these shackles. We're living life as we're in these leg braces, and we're trying to run, but we're allowing these broken moments to just confine us. And every moment seems like a struggle because our baseline is broken. And we run, and it's not much more than a fast walk, and we try to accomplish things in life, but we don't feel like we can because we're just shackled by our past. We're defining our life by our braces and not by our designer. In the same way as when Forrest looks ahead and as he starts to run, and these shackles fall off, these braces, they fall off, and he's able to run fast, and he's able to run straight. And this is what Jesus calls us to. He calls us to run fast and straight and no longer allow the braces of our brokenness to define us anymore. That we have seasons of brokenness. We have seasons where, we have these braces on, but we worship past because of Jesus. We're offered living water that wells up inside of us and gives us hope to worship past the broken moments. You and I, we have moments of brokenness, but we are not broken people. We have moments of brokenness, but because of Jesus, we don't live in a state of brokenness. He brings healing to our brokenness, and we worship through. Why don't you go ahead and stand this morning? I would venture a guess that this morning that there are some of us that we feel like every moment in life is a step that's difficult to take. We made decisions in our past that we wish we could go back and do over and change, and we're dealing with results from them right now, and we feel like life is just this shackled brace mess. And maybe this morning, more than anything else, you need to be reminded that Jesus didn't sit down with this woman just to make her feel guilty. He sat down with this woman to offer her something better. And he does the same for us today, no matter where we're at. Maybe we decided to follow Jesus and walked away from it. Maybe we haven't decided to follow Jesus, and so we're just living with the guilt of our past. Maybe we just can't get past this one moment, and it seems like it's strangling us. This morning, Jesus doesn't want you to just live feeling guilty and broken. He wants you to worship past it. He wants you to recognize that he is the same way with this woman. He's right here. He's right here to say you're not broken. I died for your brokenness so that you can live healed. I died for those moments that you're living in regret of. I've already gotten rid of them. We don't live in a state of brokenness anymore. Because of a cross and an empty tomb, we may go through seasons of brokenness. But because of Jesus, we can worship through. This morning, we're going to do that. We're going to worship together. We're going to sing. We're going to recognize who Jesus is in our lives. And because of it, we're able to say, I'm not broken anymore. Because of who Jesus is, I'm able to worship through the broken moments.